What is going on, ProGuides family? My name is Renox, and today we've got a great video for you guys. Today, we are going to be talking about probably the most important part of Valorant, the fundamentals. If you're joining us from a fighting game, then you might know these as their more fun term, fundies. In Valorant, the fundamentals are key to your success as the rest of Valorant's mechanics and skills build upon these foundations. If you are a new player, this is a great place to start along with our beginner's guide, and if you are a more advanced player, then this will be a great refresher on your skills to make sure they are honed for the ranked grind. But before we get into that, you guys know what time it is. It is time for our question of the day. Today's question is, what are you currently practicing on? Personally, I'm working on my movement at the moment to get better at matrixing my way around bullets and hopefully not getting one-tapped by that 23-2 jet. Let us know what you're working on down in the comments below, and if you aren't currently practicing, then let us know what you might want to work on in the future. The first thing we are going to be covering today is counter-strafing. This skill is essential to proper aiming, even though most would consider it a movement skill because of how it relies on starting and then stopping. More specifically, counter-strafing is when you press the opposite movement key from what you are currently pressing. For instance, if you are moving right with D to counter-strafe, you would tap your A key to cancel your momentum in-game and come to a stop. This helps because in Valorant, you are not very accurate while moving, but when you stand still, your accuracy sharpens. This helps when you are moving towards a site, for instance, and you need to stop moving and become accurate quickly because you see an enemy and want to take them down. The reason for a tap of the movement key is because you want to make sure that you actually don't start accelerating in the other direction. If you start moving, then you lose the reason for counter-strafing in the first place. If you do happen to start moving in the other direction, then just counter-strafe again. This time, while holding A, just tap D to stop instantly and become accurate. Counter-strafing can be done very effectively around corners. Just move around the corner by pressing A or D, then tap the opposite key to stop moving when you see an opponent. Take a few shots, then swing back behind cover. Repeat this until your opponent is dead, and boom! You just use counter-strafing to secure your first kill. Once you get a bit more advanced and familiar with the game, you can also use counter-strafing in more complex movements than just direct opposite movement key. For example, you can do things like canceling the momentum of a WD key press on the ground by tapping A and S at the same time, which is a bit harder to do consistently than you might think. There is also the problem of dealing with air momentum, but that is a concept for a much more advanced video. Mastering this technique will allow you to move fluidly between shots and feel like a ghost, dodging bullets left and right while also hitting your own shots. This is because masters of the technique can transition between complex movement patterns that you can learn more about in our movement video and counter-strafing to cancel their momentum and always land their shots. The next fundamental skill we are going to be taking a look at is tracking. Tracking is the first of the two aiming skills we are going to be looking at in this section. Tracking refers to how you move your mouse when you track a target on screen. It requires a good understanding of motion and a natural instinct and ability to predict a target's path, but that's just a fancy way of saying pay attention and shoot where something is going to be. In Valorant, this isn't too hard when dealing with people moving around because in order to shoot accurately, you need to be standing still, as we discussed earlier. When more people are rewarded for standing still, there's going to be much less of a need for tracking, and so you don't have to worry about chucking your mouse halfway across the room and then going to Amazon to buy a larger mousepad. Instead, your tracking abilities will be tested in ways like pre-aiming corners where enemies like to sit and smaller tracking challenges like a Sage trying to get a jump peek on an angle. To practice your tracking, just go to the shooting range and try to keep your crosshair on one of the flying drones around the range. If you are constantly too far ahead of the drone, then that means that your sensitivity might be a bit too fast. If your crosshair is lagging behind the drone, that might also mean that your sense is a bit too slow. However, it could also mean that your hand is just a bit shaky or that you haven't smoothed out your tracking movements yet. Tracking is a skill that requires a while to master, and changing your sensitivity can help with it, but it won't help when it comes to keeping your mouse steady in the horrors of solo queue. Flicking is the second mode of aiming we are going to be talking about today, and is the one that is probably the most relevant for Valorant. Flicking refers to the motion that you make with the mouse when you make a rapid movement, normally to check for enemies or make a quick shot onto someone who just appeared on your screen. When you flick your mouse, you are always trying to land on the spot that you intend, but often that can be very hard. Training your flick aim comes from, once again, a lot of practice. I have hundreds of hours just trying to practice my flick aim and drive all the motions into my muscle memory. When you see sick plays from pros and you wonder how they are able to consistently pull off such awesome mechanical plays, it's because their muscles have been honed from thousands of hours of playing and aim training. But that does not mean that you have to do those thousands of hours. It just means that you gotta pick up that mouse and maybe spend 10 minutes just playing around in the shooting range. It won't be fast improvement, but doing something is better than nothing, and if you want to reach the top, you just gotta start somewhere. Third on the list today is going to be map awareness. This fundamental requires probably the most thinking out of all of the rest, so just let me explain. Map awareness refers to a few things in this context. We are referring not only to the awareness of your minimap and teammates' locations, but also awareness of the physical map itself with rotation times and pathways to the bomb site being understood. If you are a new player, this is actually probably one of the hardest things to pick up, but one of the easier ones to master. After playing on all the maps for a bit, you will start to understand the danger zones that you will need help with before you enter, and the safer areas as well. With a little bit of effort and just a few hours, you can learn all the callouts for all the maps as well. Playing with some more experienced friends is also a great way to learn map callouts and map rotations, but we get that not everyone can do that. You can always check YouTube though, as there are always a lot of videos going over some common names for angles and spots. Also, always to be sure of where your teammates are and the positions they are in. If you are right next to your teammates, what is most likely going to end up happening is you both getting shot down, or maybe you guys even get 1 or even 2 kills before dying. However, if you spread out just a little bit, you can easily turn that into 2 or 3 kills just by forcing the enemies to peek 2 different angles. For timings and pathways, again, it is just a little bit of attention and focus, and you can build a mental map in your head and use your mini-map as a reference for how big a certain part of the map is. Speaking of the mini-map, be sure to pay attention to this little guy, as he is very important as it contains some of the most useful information in the game. The minimap contains information about the positions of your team, where they are watching, as well as the locations of any spotted enemies, and even when you are making noise and how loud that noise was. All of this information is very important, even if you don't know how to process all of it immediately. Just start out with the simple stuff like your location and the enemy's locations. Red dots and question marks are for the enemy's locations, for those of you who don't know. If you are a more advanced player, use the minimap to judge where an enemy might have gone after disappearing from an angle, or even just to see who is still alive on your team. Checking your minimap for any reason is good, because in the end, you might notice something that you didn't before, and it could lead to a free round for you. Even if you don't quite understand everything up there, just peek at it as often as you can, and you will learn more about the game as it becomes clear. Starting to round things off today, we have utility. Utility refers to the abilities in Valorant that serve some sort of use to the team. Things like Brimstone's Sky Smokes or Jet's Cloud Bursts. These are abilities that can block lines of sight and are called smokes. Abilities like Omen's Paranoia or Phoenix's Curveballs blinds the enemy's vision and are called flashes. Viper's Snakebite and Brimstone's Incendiary are area of denial utility that are commonly called mollies. The reason we are spreading these all out is because these are the different types of utility inside of Valorant, but not all of abilities are utility. Jet's Tailwind and Updraft, as well as Omen's Shadow Step, are all movement abilities and only help the agent that can use them. The reason that utility is important to the game is because using a combination of smokes, mollies, and flashes, the attacking team can get onto a bomb site and plant the spike, or the defenders can use that utility to make it harder for the attackers to get onto the site in the first place. This is where the real strategy of Valorant comes in. Using smokes to bait pushes and flashes to fake a presence is how you play Valorant at the highest level, but it all stems from just using your abilities in the proper way at the right time. If you think you can help your team by placing a smoke somewhere, just go for it. If it was a bad smoke, then just remember that for the next time, and maybe even try to figure out why the smoke was bad so you don't place similar smokes in the future. If doing self-review like that is tough, then you are not alone. That is the place where most people falter on improving, myself included. However, what I learned is that with someone by your side to be that second pair of eyes and the voice of reason when you are doing self-reviews helps immensely. It helps even more if that person is an experienced player in the game, so why not check out ProGuides.com, where you can hire some of the best players in Valorant to help you discover potential holes in your gameplay and habits enemies can exploit. All links are down in the description below, so be sure to check it out at the end of the video. All that aside though, when you are using your utility, just ask yourself this question: how is this utility helping myself or helping my team? If you ask yourself this question and you have an answer, then do use that utility. If you don't have an answer, then don't use the utility then. After you do use the utility though, try to see if it was a good choice. Do your teammates like it? Maybe they just took sight and got the spike down. Or maybe they accidentally burned in your molly. Being able to look at a situation and try to understand how it is going to go down is a very fun skill to learn, but it takes a lot of time and is just built up naturally through trying new things. You can always watch videos or have fun, but when you step outside of your comfort zone to try new things, that is how you really go, and then refining that new information is how you improve to the top. And for the final thing that we will be talking about today, we have agents. Agents help to dictate your style of play throughout a match and ultimately decide how you will play the rest of the game. Choosing a more defense-oriented agent like a sentinel may result in less kills and instead more helping the team through abilities or blocking off pathways. Choosing a more aggressive-minded agent like a duelist may lead to you flinging knives or setting people on fire and scoring massive kill streaks. Or maybe not. Not every role has to play around their strengths. Sometimes the duelists are having a rough game, so the sentinels step in and get all the kills, and that is part of the beauty of Valorant. When you choose your agent, you are selecting a preferred playstyle, but that doesn't mean that you can't do other things. When you go to select an agent, look for someone who interests you first. This will help make sure that you are interested in the agent you are playing, and will also help you understand their abilities faster and potentially even their playstyle quicker. When you are first starting out in Valorant, try a bunch of agents first that interest you. If only one or two interest you, then just play those first to learn the game. And then as you get a bit more familiar, start to branch into every other agent. This will not only help you learn how the agents play, but also their potential weaknesses and how to play against them. It might even potentially help you find an agent that you liked playing even more than your current one. Experimentation is key when it comes to mastering agents, both playing them and against them. If you find there is an agent that you struggle against, try to start playing that agent more, just in an unrated or spike rush. See what their options are and see what tactics and combos work against you and work against them in your own playstyle and your own agent to overcome that agent. Well guys, unfortunately that is all that we have for you here today. If you liked the video, then be sure to drop a like, and if you are feeling extra zesty, maybe even consider dropping a subscribe as well. We put out new videos like this one every single day, and you definitely don't want to miss a single one. Don't forget to check out ProGuides.com as well for some of the best coaching in Valorant. Remember to stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Peace out.